We wanted to thank ESCEPS Conference for having us present today. My name is Ari Sapinsley, and I'm a student at Adler University.
I am John Pine. I am a performance expert for the U.S. Army at Fort Polk, Louisiana. So continuing from what Felix said, Ari and I's role was to develop a mental skills training program for the Youth Academy athletes, ages U13 through U17. We used Lysak's 9 mental skills paradigm to develop this list. And as you will see on the next slide, the 9 mental skills these were the 9 mental skills we used to develop this mental skills training curriculum for the, like I said, U13 through 17 athletes.
And so our roles and responsibilities were greatly affected and shifted based on the pandemic. And so we had to adapt to e-delivery of our services. And a big part of that and the building of that's purpose had to do with establishing and building those relationships, primarily with the players, the staff, the athletic trainers, all the members of the organization, for the intended purpose within our role of integrating their physical at-home training with our psychological training, our mental skills training programs. And so that had a lot to do with how we collaborated with the staff, which we'll discuss further.
So for the U13 through U17s, when we were developing this curriculum, we initially sent out a questionnaire for each individual team, asking questions along the lines of if they knew what mental skills training was, if they knew what sport performance psychology was, if they'd ever heard of it or ever practiced any of it before. Along with that, we sent a priority checklist. They could vote which mental skills they deemed were the most important for their development right now. And based off each team's individual results, we would develop a mental skills activity and program list for the week of each individual team. So each individual team would have a different mental skill for that week.
So a big part of this process had to do with how we got our information, which was from the coaches, athletic trainers, athletes, and the past staff as well, whether that be in the film room, analyzing video with coaches, team sessions with each team, or one-on-one sessions with individuals. The data we got each week and the information we got each week would help us adapt and shift what we were doing to better provide services. And one of the things we'll discuss later as well as now is the nomenclature and language that we use became incredibly significant and important. And being able to adapt to each developmental stage and age, particularly when online without face-to-face contact, we had to make sure that information was digestible and that terms and language were agreed upon and understood. And so here we have an example on the left-hand side of an at-home physical training program that on the right-hand side, we see a goal-setting worksheet, the mental skills training that was integrated and put together in collaboration with the coaches and athletic trainers. And so now coming to takeaways and conclusions, for considerations for mental performance consultants, I'll hit mostly on just cultural humility for now, discussing basically in reflection how important being culturally aware and culturally humble was in providing services, particularly during a pandemic was for each individual and their identities and intersectionality and understanding barriers and ways that we could advocate and provide better services.
And as far as adapting to a totally online presence using telecommunication domains or different types of sources, it was a struggle to do this. Everyone had to develop their proficiency with it very quickly and also understand the etiquette involved with telecommunications. So with all this being said, I thought the Chicago Fire organization did a great job of controlling what they could control in these unprecedented situations.
Thank you for listening to our presentation. Our information and questions and comments can be delivered at the end of the next presenter's presentation.
First, I would like to thank ICE Conference for allowing me to present today. My name is Claire Newman, and I'm an athletic counseling graduate student at Springfield College. So continuing on from what Felix, Ari, and John had spoke about in their previous presentations, I also had a goal of creating a mental skills training program and for the Chicago Fire Juniors, which is a branch organization of the Chicago Fire. And the purpose of this program was to not only have these young athletes develop their mental skills, but also their transferable skills. And one of the ways we did that was through developing a remote educational experience. So before I go into detail of what the program entailed, I just want to briefly touch on the importance of these mental skills training programs. And that's that it provides these athletes with a wide range of skills that they can use either in sport as well as out of sport. And one of the ways we thought it would be beneficial for these athletes to learn about such mental and transferable skills is by adding that enjoyable element. And that was seen through various activities and games, as well as any discussions with their teammates and coaches online. So the Fire Value Series is incorporated the 7 core values of the Chicago Fire. As these athletes would engage with these core values weekly, they had the chance to practice some of the mental skills as well as transferable skills through the activities that were presented for that week. So this was the material that each of the athletes and coaches would receive weekly. In the worksheets and material that they would receive. It not only gave an overview of what the core value was and why it was important to the club, but it then provided the activities that they would have to complete either on their own or with their family, as well as give them the option to do it with their teammates online. This then would lead to having like a Zoom team call with their coaches where they would discuss their understandings and their findings from this week. So from the youth sport consulting model, I just want to focus on initiating contact, because this was a huge part in the development of the Fire Value Series. So not only with planning activities on your own, but also having these weekly meetings with the directors of coaches for each of the clubs, where they gave us feedback of what they'd like to see for that specific week of that core value, as well as what they liked that we already had planned. And then just remembering to have everything sent out to the coaches in a timely manner, so the coaches and athletes would receive their upcoming material at the end of each week, and they would be all set to start the new week. After the program had ended, we did receive some feedback from players and parents, and the overall theme seemed that they thought it was a great learning tool, but they also really appreciated the fact that this was another neat way to keep these athletes engaged with their team and coaches, even though they had to be apart due to the ongoing pandemic. And as I wrap up today, I really just want to touch on the holistic skills approach with these programs, and making sure that the goal is to foster this long-term development for these athletes. And then again, I just really want to address the response the Chicago Fire had. I thought they responded great to changing to remote learning, and we're still able to provide these services for these athletes. So with that, I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation, and what will follow is our information along with any questions or comments. Thank you.